Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we are discussing a special model launched in steel for 2021 from Grand Seiko. This is the spring drive hand-wound SBGY007 Omiwatari, a watch dedicated to the path of the gods, or the ice fissures that form atop Lake Suwa adjacent to the Grand Seiko Spring Drive studios during the winter. So to that end, we have a dial reminiscent of the phenomenon in a watch that is the epitome of Japanese-made elegance. Nicely sized at 38.5 millimeters in diameter. You can see it's only 10.4 millimeters thick. From lug to lug, a wonderfully compact 43.4 millimeters with a 19 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. This is a very vintage aesthetic, much like the original 1960s Grand Seiko, and that is the touchstone for this line. So you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it wears beautiful and beautifully. Short across the wrist, it's suitable for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and it's the consummate dress watch, slipping underneath any kind of a tight sleeve or cuff over the top, even pulling the strap fairly tight. The lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. The strap is sublime. I don't know who makes these straps for Grand Seiko, but alligator that feels as soft as tenderized calf skin or even doe skin. It's unbelievable how supple the strap is. A brand new factory strap, cav on the bottom, large rectangular symmetrical scale alligator on the top, and yet as close to silk as you will ever get with animal hide. Now you can see here, black with a lightly contrasting blue stitch. It's a semi-gloss. Large rectangular symmetrical scales, so the best and rarest cut of the beast. You can see there's a little bit of bolstering to give it volume and a folded edge. Grand Seiko factory strap, and then a factory clasp. Twin trigger release, so it pops open when you press the two triggers. And then externally you can see a combination of satin finish and polish. Rolling around to the case, you can see the famed Zaratsu polish, or the mirror finishing that Grand Seiko artisans take 3 years to master, executed against the spinning tin plate of a Zaratsu machine. And so this is a genuinely hand-finished case, particularly these mirrored flanks that are reflective. We have a very narrow satinated mid case. Again, the idea here is to recall early Japanese dress watches, not quite as much as those that are explicitly modeled after the 3180, but this is a graceful look that harks back to the 60s without plagiarizing it. We have these lovely tapered integrated lugs. We have a crystal that is dramatically cambered like a vintage plexi, and a inwardly stepped conical bezel, Grand Seiko logo on the crown. And then of course, we have the Shinshu Watch Studio in Shiojiri up in Nagano Prefecture, and it is a very cold place in northern Japan where during the winter the extremely shallow Lake Suwa can freeze over. Now Lake Suwa is a fascinating phenomenon. It's not all that big, and it's extremely shallow with an average depth of just 15 feet. Because it has thermal vents underneath its surface, it also has a tendency to act unusually in ways that cause ridges of ice to crush up against each other and actually form fissures that gain height, a foot or more above the plane of the lake. So you have these long fissures that crack their way and channel their way across the lake. And it's said to be the path of the gods in traditional Japanese folklore. And so we have these ridges of ice on the light blue metallic dial. Grand Seiko dials, along with Rolex, are, in my opinion, the best in the mainstream luxury class. Rolex gets there by mass production automation. Grand Seiko gets there by many steps and manual fabrication. Nowhere is that more true than on the dial furniture. You can see the hands, the logo, and the indices, all diamond cut manually with micro facets, placed and then caulked by hand. Truly works of art with an actual fired steel running seconds hand. And you can see that because this is Grand Seiko manual wind spring drive caliber 9R31, there's no tick, no tock, there's no start, no stop. That is a truly smooth, seamless sweeping hand. The watch does have a hacking setting so you can stop the seconds hand and set it to a reference time. Very little dead angle in the crown in terms of how much I have to move it before that hand starts moving. And look at those razor-like facets, those two Dauphine hands at center. Works of art in their own right. Now turn it all over. Spring drive remains a remarkable thing. It's hard to see here, but there is actually a ghosted logo on the case back right over the center. I'll do my best to show you that, but it may not receive on camera. 30 meters water resistant. Make no mistake, this is a dress watch, but it's got a lovely movement. Manual wind here, 72-hour power reserve. Power reserve indicator on the case back. It has 30 joules, and you can just barely see the unidirectional governing wheel here. Turns in one direction. The spring drives the train, which drives the governing wheel, and then on the other side, the governing wheel is geared to the hands. So it is entirely driven by a spring, even though the timing is by a quartz timing circuit. The motion of the governing wheel creates an induced electromagnetic current, and that electrical current then wakes up and operates the quartz circuit. So there's no batteries, there's no power capacitors here. It's all done by spring energy. Once the induced electrical current wakes up the quartz applies an electromagnetic braking force on the wheel to slow it down so that it tells time no worse than plus or minus 15 seconds a month. And remember, a COSC Swiss mechanical chronometer is +6 - 4 seconds per 24 hours. So this is on a different plane. And yes, it is entirely mechanically driven. And this movement, which is beautiful, is made, regulated, and when the time comes, serviced by a watchmaker at Grand Seiko in Japan. This movement will not just outlast you, but probably your heirs. It is designed for the multi-generational life of the watch, so don't be fooled by the quartz timing circuit. If you love this watch, and I cannot see why you wouldn't, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing.